Hi guys, welcome to episode 3 of my tutorials on data structures and algorithm in Java. We are still in the Java syntax introduction. So last time we looked at arrays and loops, which were for loop, while loop, do while loop, and for each loop. And I hope you understood that very well because today we are now going to look at selection statement, which is if, else, and then we have else, if, and stuff. Yeah. So selection statements are more like statements where something happens when another thing happens. So it's like, let's say they send you to go and buy stuff, right? And I say, oh, go and buy me oranges. But if there are no oranges, buy mangoes. So first you check for oranges. If there are no oranges, that means that particular statement is true. Then you decide to buy what? Mangoes. But if that statement is false, that means there are oranges. What do? You buy oranges. So that is just a short example pertaining to selection statement. So in Java, we use if, else if, and else keywords, right? So the syntax for selection statement is mostly if followed by condition. Then we have curly braces, right? Then instruction. Then we can have else. Then we have instruction. Mhm. Now, if you want to check more than one condition in the same string, let's say if I say if there are no oranges, check and see if there are mangoes. If there are no mangoes, then check and see if there are apples. If there are no apples, buy pineapples. I don't know if that makes sense. So it's like you check this. If it's not true, then check the next one. If it's not true, check the next one. So let's try this. So in order to do this, you can add else if, then followed by what? Condition again, and then we have our curly braces, then followed by else. Now this particular else if, you can have like a lot of else ifs. So after if, you can have like, let's say, 15 else ifs before an else. Else is more like, okay, if all the ifs and the else ifs are not true, then do the else. Okay, so now okay, there was a typo in my spelling of condition. Anyway, pardon me. All right, so let's put our condition here. First, we are going to define I. Int I is equal to, let's say, 7. Yeah, I forgot to hit 7 initially. 7 is my favorite number. So int I is equal to 7. Then now let's check. If I is greater than, oh, okay, the if is outside. I is greater than, let's say, let's use less than. If I is less than 5, let's say system dot out dot println, then let's just put a string. I, so let's do something nice. I am less than 5. So I am less than 5. Isn't that interesting? I and I. Anyway, so then let me paste this here. Now this condition, what if I is, so if I is less than 5, it should do this. Let's put another condition here. If I is greater than or equal to 5, so that we won't have loopholes here. Now, yeah, that could be so, but let's add something nice. And so in Java, the end is double ampersand, and I is greater than, let's say, 10. And I hope you know this is not nice, right? So if I is greater than or equal to 5, I is less than 10. So that means if it's from 5 to 9, then it should say I am between 4 and 10. Yeah, okay, so it will be between 4 and 10, right? Or I am from 5 to 9. Anyone you use is cool. So you could also have or. if you want to use or, then you use this double slash. Sometimes they feel like the rarest key you use on your keyboard, but you use them often in Java. It's for all. But here I want to use and, so I use a double ampersand. Okay, then else it should print up. I realize I just put print there. That is for Python. In Java, you need to start a system dot out dot print ln or dot print. So let's delete this, and then you put whatever you want to print inside the bracket. So system dot out dot print, right? Then we are going to have so it's pretty obvious, right? If it's not less than 5 and it is not between 4 and 10, then it is greater than or equal to what? 10. So you say I am greater than or equal to 10. Perfect. So this is how selection statement goes. We have our variable, we have an if statement followed by the condition in the bracket, then open curly braces and close, and put whatever instruction wanted to execute inside the curly braces, then followed by else if, then we do the same. Then we have the else, which runs once these two conditions are not met. I hope that is cool. So let's run this and see. Currently I is 7, so it says I am between 4 and 10. Isn't that interesting? So that means that so let's change this to I am greater than or equal to 5 and less than 10. Okay, so now that we've done this and you see how it works, you can keep changing this value, right? So we can put the whole of this if else block into a for loop. So let's say, what if I do this for, always remember your brackets, int I is equal to 0, then I less than, this time let me use less than or equal to what number should we use? Let's say 15. No, so let's use 14, so that it will start from 0 to 14, and that is 15 digits. I less than or equal to 14, then let's do I plus plus. Okay, then followed by what? Curly braces, right? So I'm just going to shift these to the right a bit using tab, and then at the end here I close the braces for the for loop. Okay, so now let's run this and see what happens. So this is a for loop. So you realize that it starts, so for int I is equal to 0, so this is for 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. You see, all less than, then it continues 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Then I hope you get what it is doing. Yeah, so this is what it prints, which is pretty cool, right? Okay, now you know how to use if else and stuff, right? So let's just do something small to check and see if a number is even or odd. So let's have this. I'm going to take these if else conditions out, and then I want it to check up to 20, from 0 to 20. Now in programming, sometimes 0 is considered an even number because sometimes 0 modulo 2 is 0. Yeah, you don't get what I'm saying probably, and some of you probably get it, but let's do this and see. So for int I is equal to 0, I less than 20, I plus plus, if there is this new operation I'm going to introduce here, I percentage 2 is greater than, no, actually double equal. So when you are using equals and you don't use 1 equal, I use double equal to because remember we were using equal sign to assign a variable to a unit, right? So we use double equal sign for the comparison. So if this is equal to 0, then followed by what? Instruction, right? So if you check this out now, this percentage sign is called the modulo. So it's more like when you divide I by 2, what is the remainder? I hope that makes sense. So this will always give you the remainder. If I put 3 here, then that means if I divide I by 3, what is the remainder? If the remainder is 0, then it should do whatever that is in the block there. So we want to now realize that all even numbers, when you divide by 2, you get 0, and all odd numbers, when you divide by 2, there's a remainder of 1. So this is how we determine even numbers and odd numbers in programming. So if I modulo 2 is equal to 0, obviously it implies the number is even, right? So we have system dot out dot println. Okay, let's do something interesting to here. Some small combination, right? So let's say the number, then we have plus, then we'll put I there, then we have plus, then followed by another string is even. So we are saying that if I modulo 2 is equal to 0, then it should print the number, which is a string, plus I, which is the number we are checking here, I. Then we have another string again, is even. So it's like we are concatenating this string with this integer, which will be converted to a string, and then with another string here. Good. Then we can have else. So with the else, it's just followed by what? An instruction. If you are using else, you could also use else if and also put a condition here. But at the moment, let me use the else and then change it to an else if, just to show you how it's done. So this is odd. So if the remainder is 0, it should print the number, this is even. Else it should print what the number is odd. So let's run this and hope we get what we expect to get. So you realize that there's no spaces, so let me just add some spaces here. And then run it again. So you can see the number 0 is even, the number 1 is odd, number 2 is even, 3 is odd, in that order, even odd up to 20. Okay, now realize that 0 is considered even. That is because when you divide 0 by 0, which is sort of not possible, but the remainder is kind of 0. So this is what happens when you look at the binary form for 0, it is 0, right? And the binary for 1 is 1. And the binary for 2 is 1 0. The binary for 3 is 1 1. The binary for 4 is 1 0 0. So you realize that all odd numbers end in 1 and all even numbers end in 0. So sometimes in the computer, 0 is considered an even number. Anyway, if you need more knowledge on this, just you can Google stuff about it and understand why sometimes 0 is considered an odd number in programming. Now you could also have a condition here, right? So else if then we need to put a condition here. So we can have this I modulo 2 is equal to 1 because the remainder will always be 1. Okay, so this would work, but because I want to add another concept, I wouldn't use this. I'll use the not equal to, which is an exclamation mark followed by an equal sign. So else if I modulo 2 is not equal to 1, anyway, we want to use 0. If it's not equal to 0, then it should print the number is odd. So this is another operation for comparison. So remember, we have for comparison, we have the double equal sign for equal to, we have the less than for less than, greater than for greater than, less than followed by greater than for less than or followed by less than followed by equal to for less than or equal to, then greater than followed by equal to for greater than or equal to, then exclamation mark followed by equal to for not equal to. So let me just run this, and once I run this, you realize that our output is still the same, 0, even, 1, odd, and in that order. Thank you for watching this tutorial. Look out for my next video, which will be awesome, and have a nice day.